Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with me on Sunday, the 29th, is it right? 26th, excuse me, Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a few days ahead of myself. Sunday, the 26th of March of 2023, and thank you for being with us at Unity Church of San Marcos, and I'm Reverend Paula Skiles, and we're having a little different service this morning. We're having a time of just really getting in deep and digging into some thoughts and ideas about Lent. And I asked a few of my congregants to sit with me as we talk about these things and to just have a conversation regarding some things that are on our minds about Lent. What is the first thing that is on your mind, Carol?
Well, I expressed a question about why do we give things up for Lent?
Okay. Why do we give things up for Lent? Okay. Anyone else think about why do we do that? Anyone else have a thought before I join in?
I kept hearing the word surrender in my head, to letting go and letting God, you know. And I had many things that I thought of that I wanted to work on.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So surrender is a part of why you feel like people do that, is to gain a sense of what it means to surrender.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Right. Which is different than, quote, giving up. All right. Surrender has nothing
Right.
to do with giving up.
Right.
Exactly. All right. Anyone else have a thought about
I'm
it?
thinking, I believe it is some kind of sacrifice that we offer to Jesus for all the things that Jesus Christ went through just to save us.
Okay.
All right. So in your perspective, it's about sacrifice and allowing ourselves to honor the work that Jesus did, as well as to experience for ourselves a sense of sacrifice as we do that. Okay.
Or a sense of grounding.
Okay.
I knew I had to come in here sometime.
All right. So grounding. All right, and in the sense of letting go is grounding for you. Okay. All right. So we ground our spiritual being. Okay. That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
Our
Okay.
spiritual temple.
Uh-huh. All right. Cool. Well, if you look at it from a traditional perspective, the Mario has said that it was about sacrifice. And originally, Lent started as an idea of sacrifice and a way for us to honor Jesus and to come into, I think on a spiritual level, a more grounded being for us is to experience a sense of letting go of the kinds of things that keep us attached to this physical being, all right?
Yeah.
To letting go of the things that don't really serve us on a lot of levels. And so in Unity, we do have a Lenten experience of releasing those things mentally and emotionally and spiritually that no longer serve us, or that once we used to survive or to try to get through something in our life, and to cope, into learning how to, by releasing these types of things like fear or anger or resentments or these things, by releasing those and being conscious about it, we do ground ourselves spiritually. We do come to a place where there's a clearing that Spirit can fill us with. Holy Spirit can come through, if you will, into that space that we have just released. And it's kind of like when we're experiencing anger or when we're experiencing fear or jealousy or hurt or any of those kinds of things, we generally are not open on a spiritual level to hear anything of guidance, to hear anything from Spirit or from that inner Christ part of our being that says comfort, or that brings to us a sense of understanding, or that brings to us a sense of where we are and what we're doing, and a sense of truth, okay? Of the reality of where we are. And so, to me, Lent, as a Unity minister, is truly about connecting on a much deeper level than we do as a general rule. And we do it in the wintertime, which is really conducive, because as a rule, we're trying to close in, and then Lent closes out as spring begins, and it's opening us up to new beginnings. Okay? Any other thoughts about something I just said about that?
Right, and the fact that we move into spring, where we've let go of all the emptiness and the non-green, which means health.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Spring
all
has
these
sprung.
things. Yeah, I got little. Yeah, so it's the perfect timing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Renewal,
For you, you feel a sense of renewal?
renewal, yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else with some thoughts about it?
New beginnings.
New beginnings. And how does that work for each of you in your mind? How does that work for you on a practical level? What does that really do for you on your day-to-day? You've got, bills to take care of, jobs, or you've got kids in your life, or even grown children who need thoughts and help and things like that. Or maybe, you might be retired, but you still have so many things that call upon us.
Yes.
So how does Lent reflect for you in your personal lives?
Well, I have started a regimen of fasting several weeks back for my weight loss, but it has actually turned into not just a weight loss, but it has turned into a sign of strength building for my constitution, and for me to be able to stay committed to, that thing, that one thing, and stay strong with it, and being happy with my results,
Great.
however they appeared
Yeah.
at that time.
Okay. So it also opens you up to acceptance too,
Yes.
of yourself
acceptance.
and others, and about, as you were talking, surrender. Because there is that surrendering that we do of
Right.
our resistance, or our issues, or we're surrendering these things, which is a
Right.
beautiful, powerful spiritual experience.
Right.
Anyone else want to share what Lent is offering you?
Right. Well, and for me, like, the bottom line is letting go, but not like giving up, like you said. But you say letting go and let God. That's where you bring into the growth. You let God help you. You let the universe help you. And for me, it's nature.
Oh.
And because I can't do much in the winter as far as being outside, at least I can. And I get so excited. I just get thrilled because I love being outside, and I love growing, and I just love being outside with my dogs and myself. And it takes me away from the depression that I feel during the winter. And I have worked really hard to not plan to be depressed, not knowing, well, it happened last year, it'll happen this year. And but still, it comes. And maybe that's just because I need it there so I can grow and get into spring.
Okay. Wonderful experience, yeah.
To me, it is a realization that God had given us this body, therefore we are responsible for ourselves. And I realize also that I need to take better care of myself by choosing, making choices that are healthier as far as meals and trying to exercise as much. So, I guess that would be my way of saying, I love you, God. Thank you for everything you have given me. And so that's what I'm doing.
Wonderful. Oh, good. I like to think of that as my body temple. All right, is something I try to take care of. I mean, it truly is. I'm not always perfect. None of us are. I mean, but that's the whole point. Is we get to strive for that. We get to have some kind of goal, right? And
Yeah, having a goal.
Having a goal. And for me, Lent is a powerful time. I mean, it's just a powerful time. It's an emptying of all the excess.
All that don't serve anymore.
Yeah.
To be able to ground and be.
So you've talked about grounding for a couple of times. What does that mean for you?
All the negativity shuts off the grounding. So we have to be alert to negative things that will block the positive from coming in.
Okay, all right. So grounding, I'm hearing, is a part of what Lent is about, and surrender, acceptance, and sacrifice. Now, as a rule, we don't usually talk a whole lot in our culture about sacrifice, nor surrender, or grounding, or acceptance. So these are things that, as a rule or as a whole, we don't really have a whole lot in our society to call upon or to draw upon for information or for as a resource for ourselves, do we?
We have to go to the God source.
We have to go to source. I hear you there. Yep, go to source. So does anyone else have a question in regards to our Lenten process?
Well, I know that Maria and I were talking on the phone yesterday about a priest in Italy, he's being, like, I don't know what they call that, he's being considered for sainthood.
Yes, he has been revered and considered for sainthood, yes.
Yes. And it took me back to the Catholic religion that I grew into, and how as a child, I didn't understand that what this giving up thing was, you know. So we were saying, well, we're going to give up chocolate, or give up sweets, we're going to give up, you know, being mean to my sister, which probably is a good thing. So, of course, now I have a totally different understanding. And I'm not giving up candy, so it's good.
One should never have to give up things like chocolate and candy. No, they should never have to. But if that becomes one of your goals, I mean, it's a worthy one. Not one I'm going to join you in.
Good.
All right, okay. All right, so for me then, the whole idea of connecting to that Christ spirit, you know, when we do a Lenten process, we make it easier for our souls, if you will. We make it easier for our very souls to experience what life or what being is like Christ. All right? Because there is an opportunity within our minds to get deeper to let go of some of the dross and things like that, and just the physical act. I'm reminded of when we do water immersion baptisms, all right? It's that washing away on a spiritual level rather than on a physical level. That is what Lent does, is it just washes away some of that, what we call sin, all right? And sin is an archery term, a former archery term. It means to miss the mark. And one of the important things is recognizing sin is not something that God even sees, if you will. It's something that holds us. It literally holds us because our souls are so entwined with this realm. And so as you and I let go of those things, we are able to connect and see that part of God that is in our life, moving and having an effect, and even hearing, in some cases. People actually hear Spirit's voice maybe for the first time, or more clearly over those things that we've just let go of. So I'm reminded.
So the 40 days, is that symbolic of the 40 days and 40 nights in the Bible when they were in the desert?
Yes.
40 days and 40 nights?
Well, it's symbolic of the number itself
Uh-huh.
is representative of spiritual completion. All right. The Hebrew people used numbers to symbolize a great many different things on a spiritual level, and so numbers like 3 and 12 and 40 and things like that you see repeated, and you see them repeated over and over. Even numbers that are like 144,000, well, that's 12,000 times 12,000 kind of thing. And so it's these, when there are these large numbers like this, they have a spiritual significance. And for 40, it means literally, it just takes what it takes to get the work done.
Like 70 times 7.
Yeah, it just takes what it takes.
Was it like the 40 days that Jesus spent in Mount Olives meditating? And also made me think of the 40 days that a woman that has given birth to a baby has to, I guess, stay at home. In Mexico it is stay at home, 40 days. And then on the 41st day, it is the custom for everybody to take the baby to church.
Mm-hmm.
For it to offer it to God.
Okay.
Okay.
The 40 days, in my opinion, was that it takes that much time for us to keep doing it. Because
So it offers
we will
repetition.
stop if we don't do it the completion of the 40 days.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so 40 days in the Bible is significant that it really means spiritual completion. Something of a spiritual nature that's what it takes, so to speak, to get something to a spiritual completion. And it's not necessarily 40 days. We use it because it's symbolic, but it could take a year. It could take 40 years. It could.
In my case, I think it has.
So, but the ideas that you mentioned about Jesus praying for 40 days and things like that, meditating and doing those kinds of things as the cleansing process. Originally in the Bible, women, after having had children, were considered unclean. And so the reason that they could have had to wait was until after all of their their menses had finished, and then they were able to then present themselves into the church or into the temple. They were not allowed to be in there because that was considered a negative, if you will. It was not just, but well, anyway. So it was just one of those points in history where women were subjugated to being less than. And thank goodness it's not something we have to live through here. And so I like the thought you said about that there comes a point where the mother of her child takes the baby and presents it. It's like it's presenting it to God and different things like that. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. I like that. I think it's beautiful. And I want to be clear that we don't believe that there's anything physically or mentally or emotionally wrong for a woman to not be able to go to church if she's having a menses or she's having a discharge from blood for having a child or whatever. So, so I don't know, I'm just wanting to be clear about that. We're none of us here are espousing that that's what we're supposed to be doing. And for me, I recognize that the time in which we dedicate ourselves in this 40 days that we do in unity is so precious. I mean, it just becomes, things become different. In the past, I've done some kind of physical fasting even, like, and instead of just an emotional or spiritual or things kinds of to release. But each one has a very powerful effect. It really does. There's even a verse in the Bible where in the later printings of the Bible that don't have the verse about fasting and prayer. That Jesus, whenever he was asked by his disciples why they couldn't cast out certain demon, and he was purported to have said, this type sometimes needs more fasting and prayer. And because that was not in some of the oldest texts that were found, the scrolls, the newer Bibles no longer hold that verse, and it was something that was put in long ago, but is no longer done. And so that was in Matthew. But anyway, any thoughts or any questions about Lent that?
So I gather then, at the end of Lent, then a time of celebration happens in a lot of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they know it's the end, or they've reached that completion of sacrifice, and they have celebrations.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's also important. What do you think? I mean, I think once you've accomplished something, you've set out a goal, you need to celebrate those things, even if they're small ones. And I have a feeling that so many times we get so focused on the responsibility or the duties or the obligational sense of Lent that we really don't honor that we've just done something really that required strength of character. It required a sense of purpose and being able to follow that against all quote unquote odds. Things come up. I mean, anytime you're making a commitment to let go of something that holds you back, you have emotions and feelings, and you have thoughts that come to you that just go, what, we don't need to do this anymore, or who am I to think that I could ever, or, all of those things that come up, or I'm just too busy, and yet, in the scheme of things, my sense is you're more than too busy you're also deflecting, you know? So celebrations are important.
I admire the Hispanic community a whole lot because they do have celebrations for a number of times in their lives throughout every year. And they do it every year.
Yes.
That they
Yeah.
have certain times that they celebrate. And they keep that tradition alive here in the United States as well as in Mexico.
Mhm.
And I admire that. A lot of other cultures are not as steadfast about staying with that.
Celebrations.
Right, right.
That's right. Several years ago, I went to Cholula, Puebla, and I was told that nearby there is a little town called Tonacintla, and they have I think they have, if I understand, they have 365 churches, so every day there is a celebration somewhere.
Wow.
So
I read about that town.
Tonacintla.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tonacintla, Tonacin, that's what they call Virgin Mary, the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess Tonacintla was after Virgin Mary's name.
Wonderful news.
Wow.
That's great information. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're coming to a close for our service today of interesting and intriguing ideas for Lent. And we've had an opportunity to kind of look at a few different things. We hope that something we've said today sparked an idea or perhaps even gave you some greater clarity in your life around Lent, or maybe even inspired you to next year perhaps go for Lent. And so we come closer, we're about the middle of it now, we come closer to our Lenten time.
So when is the ending time of Lent?
It is,
I mean,
Easter?
yeah.
yeah, Easter, but I don't know what day. I don't know how far we are into it.
Oh, well, I'd have to look, but I think we're like at the 4th or 5th Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it. All right. Thank you for being with us, and God bless you in this beautiful, wonderful day in Texas.